when I fire managers and coaches, there's a reason why we fired them. And it wasn't necessarily because they weren't good at what they did, but it's the team wasn't performing the way we wanted the team to perform. And we needed to try something. And you've heard me talk about this. It is very important that you do something, because doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to lose a lot of games. The Washington Nationals won a World Series not too long ago, like 2019. They never got to enjoy the fruits of that because of COVID. They ended up having to do a rebuild, and they've been pretty stinky, though, with some of the trades and the very, very adept moves by Mike Rizzo and the likes of the Lerner family. They are onto something. They have a manager named Dave Martinez. The Nationals have been struggling recently. They've lost 8 in a row. The Marlins swept them. By transitive property, that makes the Nationals worse than the Rockies. I think that's how it works, because the Rockies swept the Marlins and the Marlins swept the Nationals. That means the Rockies would sweep the Nationals, and the Rockies are a team that's not going to win 30 games. So there's a couple rumors going around about the Nationals. So Dave Martinez decided that he was going to tell us what's what and who's who. Listen to what Dave Martinez said.
It's never on coaching, never on coaching. Okay, coaches work their asses off every single day. You know, we're not going to finger point here and say it's coaches. It's never on the coaches. Okay, they work hard. The message is clear. All the work is done prior. Sometimes they got to go out there and they got to play the game. It's always been about the players. Always. I played this game a long time. Never once have I blamed the coach for anything. I mean, we worked our asses off to get better. They gave us information and we used it. These guys understand what the game is, man. These coaches, I never had such a group of coaches that worked as hard as they do. I mean, they're here freaking diligently. They go over everything. They sit with players every day. These coaches, they work their asses off. So, and I know every coach's staff is like that. So, sometimes, and the players know. Sometimes, you got to put the onus on the players. They got to go out there and they got to play the game and play the game the right way. We can't hit for them. We can't catch the balls for them. We can't pitch for them. We can't throw strikes for them. They got to do that.
Ladies and gentlemen, that will be the last press conference you'll see from Dave Martinez, because as the president of the Nationals, I would look at that statement by Dave Martinez. I would send my PR guy in to see him. Then I'd send my president of baseball operations in to see him. And then I would go see him and say, dude, what are you talking about? That's exactly what we do. Now, of course, it had the usual drivel, which is I love the hyperbole, never had a better bunch of coaches. They work so hard. They're diligent. Oh, you mean doing their job? They spend time with those players. Yes, doing their job. Yes, it's true. The Nationals are 2-11 in their last 13 games. What would you like to do, Mr. Manager? Maybe that's what Mike Rizzo will do. He'll walk into the clubhouse and say, all right, it's not the coaches. Do you know not one coach that I fired, not one coach was ever impugned by the manager? Managers always stick up for their coaches. That's the job of the manager, because they're with the coaches every day inside the clubhouse for hours. There's nothing worse than when one of your coaches is not loyal to you as a manager. I had a lot of that with some coaches, well, mostly a coach, who was not loyal at all to certain managers, creating havoc, trying to get a line straight to the president, the owner, the GM. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. It never should have worked. You can never let a coup like that happen that you don't start or don't want to have happen. But a manager will back up his coaches, and we ignore that as a front office. It doesn't in any way enter into whether we would fire that particular manager, because we expect the manager to back up the coaches. The question is when and why. When you fire a coach, you expect your manager to say, listen, not his responsibility. That said, a change was made, a new voice, a new direction. Manager gets fired, the GM does it. Coach gets fired, a manager does it. Normal chain of command PR stuff. But inside the clubhouse, what the manager is doing there is a real mistake. Because when you've got a chance, which comes up pretty much every day during the course of a season, to back up your coaching staff or your players, if you don't choose your players publicly, privately in a clubhouse meeting, you rip players. You sit down and have a meeting and say, you guys are not paying attention. You guys are not doing the work that's necessary. We're here to do the work, and you don't show up, or when you do it, you're on your phones or you're playing solitaire, whatever it is you're doing. But don't blame me when you don't know what pitcher B has on a 2-1 count and his cutter is 99. Not my problem. I was here with the video to do it. That is standard, happens all the time inside baseball. But the reason why decisions are made to move on from coaches is when the thought is that the players are not responding to the coach, and that response is manifested only through result. You do not ever fire a coach because you say, man, we think you're the greatest, but we're losing games. That's why you're fired. If we have a coach who we don't like because that coach is actually not working that hard, but our team is winning, we're not firing the coach during the season. We let him go after the season. It is totally based on results. And you know my story. You start with manager. Sometimes you start with coaches. Then you got to get to the GM. You just can never get to the president. And certainly you never get to the owner. When you listen to that 69 seconds of Dave Martinez, you realize that he's not long for that job, and the Lerner family is going to have to make a change because there was no impetus for these comments. It's a losing streak. Teams have losing streaks. It's a down part of a season after the Nationals had a surprising stretch where their record did not likely reflect their talent. And now that their record does reflect their talent, that can be a tough break.